Well, thank you. I hear it's a record turnout. First WordCamp since 2019. Good job getting out and about on Sunday morning. Thanks for coming and stopping in. Now, I'm going to share some slides. I've collected some photos. So I'm an old friend of WordPress. I see a few familiar faces, but not too many. So this is back in the days when we used to run the meetups out of the eFox office. So I think they're in the Brisbane City Council building now. So if you don't go to a WordPress meetup, get along to it because it's a lot of fun. And you meet very cool people who you stay friends with for decades. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a choose your own adventure. I kind of figure if you get out of bed on a Sunday morning, you get to decide what we talk about this morning. So if you have any questions, don't hold back. I think I've done a version of this presentation about 200 times now, so I'm okay to go off script a little bit. So ask me anything that's genuinely like a question, because other people in the room will have the same question as well. I potentially, if I'm brave enough, I'll do a live demo, but I'm like, never do a live demo, so we'll see how that goes. But before we get started, why are we talking about worst first dates ever? But to get us into that headspace, shout out, share your worst first dates ever. They could be from yesterday or from 10 years ago. There's no judgment, it's a safe space. You don't want me to tell you mine, so yeah.
Yeah, we kind of do now.
Oh dear. Yeah. Anyone?
I met up with a guy who had braces, and in the photo, the best set. I was like, I feel like it's the whole egg. I'm like the braces come quality. Yeah. In his photo, it was totally Photoshop. Yeah, when he arrived, he had full set of braces, and his teeth in the photo was the biggest smile photo. And I was like, what? I can't do what you want to do. Right. Straight away, I'm like, red flag.
Exactly. And okay, that's a really good braces, right? So if the photo had been just a photo of smiling with braces, you probably could be married to the guy now, right? So it's literally about setting expectations. What's another one? Share away.
I had a blind date.
Nice.
And so we met up, which was fine. We had a pub, we were having a drink, and I felt like I should share everything, so it was transparent. I said, look, I live with someone, and I looked on her face was drained. And I said, he's 12 years old, or 3 years old at the time. Worked out all right, 23 years later, we're married. So it worked all right, but transparency at the start was probably the wrong and the right thing at the time. So.
Yes. And transparency is an interesting one, right? It can go either way. Like, how much transparency is appropriate on the first date? Do you need to tell the person everything ever under the sun? There's a collection of stories. One more. We've got time for one more. I think someone had one. Be brave. Yes.
I met a guy for a lunch date, and after that, chose to have. And he looked at me up and down and said, "Are you going to eat that?" So the best breakfast I've ever had.
Yeah, okay. So believe it or not, we are going to come back to these stories. We're going to come back to the braces, we're going to come back to the transparency, and we're going to come back to the WTF. I don't even know what to call that one. Okay, we'll come back to it, I promise. Okay, so this isn't my first time at WordCamp. I haven't got the t-shirt to prove it, but back in 2017, I gave a different kind of talk. And since then, what I have been doing is largely running a version of this workshop with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of brands, largely exporters from New Zealand. So that's the New Zealand Trade and Enterprise. I'm their digital technology advisor in Australia. And that has afforded me the ability to really look big picture across industries, across different businesses, across different stages of growth, and observe the patterns, right? Like when you're running the same workshop every day, you get to a point in time where you go, hang on, I can see the same thing, and frankly, I could replace myself with a button, which is, Ramp is a business that I started 4 years ago, and it literally has last week delivered on that dream. And I'll tell you about Ramp WebDude a little bit later on, but Ramp WebDude replaces my need to run a workshop. It's really wild and it's cool. And in between all of that, I wrote some patterns and also put all those ideas down in a book. So if you have friends who can't sleep, I highly recommend it. It's a very great read for that. And so in that time, just to give you a sense of, the things I talk about, they're not a one-off, they're not a single data point. So I've literally analyzed thousands of websites, and now that we have AI doing the job, we've got a lot more going through and collecting data on all of that. And this is across a wide range of industries. So it's consumer goods, it's B2B, it's engineering firms, it's manufacturing firms, it's across, the whole spectrum of stuff across the board. And in that time, what I've discovered is that the emotional trust gaps are the things that cost us conversions. And it's quite interesting, we were standing outside having a chat, right? And I was reflecting that 10 years ago when I was at WordCamp, the conversations were purely about UX. How do we design really good websites so they look great, so they perform well, so we interact with them well. And today the conversation is about how do we sell more. And so it's an indication both of how the industry has changed and also what's important now. Like, I imagine you're all building websites, is that right? You're all building websites, selling websites, so on. It's no longer enough to build a beautiful website. You've got to build a website that converts. And so what I'll show you today are ways to create higher converting websites. And the reasons why they work are all because the changes that I'm recommending are really changes which are based on behavioral economics and the way that people fall in love and build relationships. We'll get onto that in a sec. Any questions so far? No? Good. I'm going to give you the spoilers at the beginning. This is the number one reason why websites don't convert really highly. It's because we design websites that propose on the first date. So we didn't have that as a world's worst first date. I'm sure people out there have been proposed to on a first date. And it's crazy, like when we think about that in a human way, we go, oh, that's a really bad idea, right? Even if you have an inkling that this is the love of my life and we're going to end up together, probably actually proposing on that first date would be a red flag and the person would run for the hills. 3 years on, it's an okay question to do. So it's not that the action is bad, it's that the context and the timing might not work. Same thing for our websites, and I'll show you how and the difference that it makes. So approximately 72% of websites commit this crime, right? And when we look at global conversion rates, they're around 3% for things like e-com, but really less than 1% for all the B2B stuff. And this is why. This is why. It would never work for us in person. Why do we think it's going to work for us in digital? Number two reason, and this, the nice thing about these lessons is they actually serve you well on real dates as well, right? You go on a date, you talk about yourself all night. Is there another date? No, right? We build websites and we talk about our business, our processes. This is what we do. That's okay on an About Us page, but not on any other page on the website. It's really about flipping that narrative and changing the script so that you're talking about the benefits that whatever it is that you do will deliver to the person who's just come to investigate you, right? So that's really important. Again, about 84% of engineering, the B2B businesses are prime offenders here. I remember running a workshop once with an engineering company, and in the benefits section, how a beautifully designed website might have like 3 bullet points of, we make your life better in A, B, C way. They had 17. I'm like, no, that's just too many, right? Let's roll these up. Number 3 reason why websites don't convert and why people leave you, why they ghost you brutally and go to a competitor's site, is that you might actually do all the hard work. You might establish exactly why you're going to make their life better. They might get a little bit of engagement, maybe you make them smile. And then when they actually commit, when there's an exchange of value, so not necessarily a purchase, maybe they sign up to a trial or they download your app, there's a big break of trust there, and I'll give you some examples of that. And that's the most expensive place in the entire customer journey to lose a person, because they've arrived, they've got to know you a little bit, they're bought in, they're showing you a signal because they've signed up for something, and then the relationship tanks. It's an expensive place to lose people, and I'll show you how much difference in revenue it can make if you get this point right. So about 65% edtech, fintech, apps. If you have an app, this is definitely a red hot thing to keep an eye out for. Okay, So what I'll go into next, the green slides, and this takes about 7 minutes, so stick with me. I'll walk you through this adore process. Now, the adore process is that patented process that's in the book and that we've developed, and it's the engine inside RAMP. And this process basically is the science behind how people fall in love and build relationships. Now you're like, why is she banging on about dates and relationships? Good question. Okay. And I think we often forget that, especially in B2B transactions, that for a purchase to happen, whoever is buying had to have formed a relationship with our brand, right? There is no purchase if there's no relationship. And it doesn't matter whether you're buying shoes, whether you're buying coffee, or whether you're buying a $2 million annual contract with Microsoft. There has to be a relationship. And so if there is a relationship, the relationship isn't with a robot. The relationship is with a human. And people say, oh, but we're B2B. That's okay. When people buy B2B software or services, etc., there's still a person who makes a decision, or likely a series of people who make a decision. So because it's a person who forms a relationship with your brand in 100% of the cases that we're selling anything, people actually form relationships in really predictable ways. There's 6 stages of a relationship. And so those examples where, the transparency and the WTF moment and the braces, they're all examples of how that process of how we form a relationship isn't respected. And when that happens, we actually feel violated, right? So if someone proposes on the first date, it's a no. Someone proposes 3 years in, it's an okay thing. And so the adore process, or this way that people form relationships, is so incredibly strong that literally you will turn people off and they will go and spend 16% more with a competitor. That's the stat. Harvard Business Review did some research a while ago, and they showed that if someone is looking for a product or a service and they come to your website and they get frustrated with you, that increase in frustration leads them to actually being willing to spend 16% more when they do buy. So if you look at that, you go, wow, I am paying for marketing. I'm losing the sale because my website isn't converting and isn't forming the right relationship. And I'm actually paying for my competitor to make 16% more, right? It's mad. And this is why conversion rates are low, because people don't respect these rules. So I'm going to take you through the process. And we're having another conversation. Amazing how many things you can cover in 15 minutes outside. But we were talking about, SEO, and has that all changed in the world of AI? And I won't go down that rabbit hole. But fundamentally, when people are looking for something, right, if you are the answer to what they're looking for and you stand a chance to be found, we start the process. That's the inception point for the relationship. And then things happen. Right now we think that the things that happen look like a funnel and everyone jumps out of the funnel and we kind of get left with almost no one at the bottom. It's actually a road, right? It's a road that's covered with beautiful things, obstacles, gremlins, and so on. And if we can navigate this road, we do get to the point of love hearts. And love hearts are not just a purchase. They're a moment where someone loves you, they're willing to come back, and most importantly, they're willing to tell their grandmother. Like, that's the really big win. Because if you have people who love your product so much they're telling others, you can't pay for that kind of advertising, right? That's a perpetual growth engine, if you can get to that point and it's working well. So, I mentioned before that people form relationships in really predictable ways. And there are 6 stages when any of us form a relationship. So again, I'm talking about relationships, but be in your mind, think, someone's landed on my website. And now I have complete agency and control over what I put on that website, so that I take a stranger and I convert them into a brand lover, right? And for that to happen, we go through 6 phases. Very first one is arrival. So someone has to find you. They have to arrive. Like, generally, people think of that moment as marketing. We did something on Facebook and they came and found us, right? For us, this relationship lens, that's just the beginning. There's actually a whole lot of other stuff that you need to do before you get the sale. You don't just arrive and we've won. We arrive. You show up at the date. you know, and then you decide, is it the right first impression? Like, does this person gel with what I have in mind? You know, you had a beautiful smile, you've got braces. You say you're 50, you're 75, like all of these things which are not necessarily bad in and of themselves, but they don't match the expectations that you had. So that first impression fails. And if the first impression fails, there is no dinner date. There's no weekend away. Like, if the first impression is creepy, you're not lining up for a retake of that. You're running for the hills without asking too many questions. And it's the same when people land on your website. I'll give you a great example of a website that's still live, but looks like it's stuck in the 1990s. They don't have very good conversions. Never mind. Okay, so first impression, tick, right? Then the next thing is we go on a date. And what's the most important thing when you go on a date? It's a question that you are free to answer. What's that? Rapport, yes. Rapport. What's that? You want to have a good time. You want to have good rapport. Attraction, yep. First impression, yep. We've gone on the date, so first impression must have been all right. So attraction, rapport, all of those things. Kind of underlying all of that is, okay, the first impression was okay, so we've gone on this date, and now really, is it the time to tell me everything ever? Probably not. So some transparency is okay, especially when it's fun and funny. But do you need to tell me about every reason why 7 ex-wives are no longer with you? No, I do not want to know that on a first date, right? So your job, when you go on that first date, is fundamentally have an iron shirt, don't be boring. Like, it's not actually any more complex than that. Be engaging. Like, be fun, be engaging, be lighthearted. It's not the time to tell me that you have ISO 1002 certification and what that all looks like. Like, that could be somewhere in a blog post. I need to know it exists, but not right at the beginning, right? So we go on this first date and we're not boring and everything is going well. And then after a while, right, like we can't, natural human nature and also the sales process says that we don't really want to be forever first date Freddy, you know? So it's great, we're sending people and they're engaging and they're staying, they're reading our website and nothing happens. They all drop off. So we've got to put in place, as designers and website builders, we've got to put in place elements where we seek commitment. Like at some point you're going to be like, mate, are we going to move in, right? Like we can't just forever be doing this. There's got to be that next level of commitment. And so this is where, you know, if we go back to the number one reason why websites, number one crimes committed on websites, it's that propose on the first date. Most websites get built with a big buy now. You arrive and there's a big button that says buy now. And that's literally like marry me. So we've got to work backwards from that. Even though that's the ultimate goal, how do you put in place little elements where people can increase their level of commitment with you? And I'll give you some examples of that. So things like download the business case for XYZ. You know, here's a competitive analysis of whatever the space is. Here's the perfect itinerary to a weekend in the Granite Belt. Whatever, you know, whatever thing you can think of that your person, your site visitor, will be needing to do homework on, that you can deliver as a piece of value, that builds commitment. I'll give you some good examples. I'm staying on this. I'm going to stay on this slide and then I'll really go fast through the next few. So we've made the commitment, we've signed up in a SaaS product. This will often be a sign up to a free trial or something. And then after that, so someone's made a commitment. And then what's the next thing? Again, in a website and in a relationship. You've just moved in with someone. What's the next thing? That's exactly right, right? Exactly. So like after that commitment, you've got to have a win. Like, you know, don't go leaving the toilet seat up and dirty dishes everywhere and whatever the case may be. Like there's got to be a few wins really early on. If you're an app, it's 48 hours. If you haven't provided someone with a clear win in 48 hours, you're in the product graveyard and you're not coming back, you know? And then at the end, people, you know, still majority of, especially, again, I'm looking at like the B2B stuff because lipstick is much easier to be emotional about, but when we're selling heavy machinery and boring services, it's less easy to do that. But at the end of the day, like, people don't necessarily make a decision to buy your product and potentially pay 10 times more than your product is worth because of the features that you have. And so you've got to convince people that you're actually going to make their life better and make them a hero. Because what's the number one reason why people don't pick a brand, a business, a product? Number one. You can give me number two. I'll fill in the blanks. But, you know, what are reasons why you think you lose the sale? People don't commit.
Doesn't solve their immediate problem.
That is a logical answer, but it's not in the top three.
They're just scared.
Closer, warmer, yeah. What are they scared of?
They're gonna make
Yep.
But they don't get the product.
They don't trust you, they get scared. It's that fear. It's the fear that they're going to make a mistake or get fired. So like at the end of the day, after you've moved in and you've given them the win, you've got to keep reminding them why you're a good choice. You can't just set and forget, or they won't come back. And you've got to keep reminding them how it is that your product actually makes them a hero. It's really important. So now we get to the design layer, right? As someone is going through these 6 stages of forming a relationship, at every stage you're building a little bit more trust, and you can't shortcut this process. You can't start at the beginning and then work your way backwards. You go through in this exact order. And as you're going through this, on an emotional level, those are the questions that you can see on the screen that people are asking as they go through the process. And once we understand what questions people are asking, we can design to those, right? So the very first question, does it feel right? You know, in real life, when you meet someone, there's like hundreds of variables that your subconscious mind processes and tells you, yes, it's a good first impression. No, it's not a good first impression. In digital, we're actually really lucky. There are only 4 things. There are only 4 things that go into making a good first impression. It's, have you established credibility and authority up front? Is the vibe right? Are your fonts and your colors and all of that vibe stuff, does it match what someone was expecting? Have you promised me shiny teeth and you've given me braces, right? I'm expecting a luxury product and it doesn't look like a luxury product. People don't stick around to investigate why there's a mismatch. They just go to the next tab and do another search. Like, your biggest competitor isn't ever in another country. They're in the next tab, and the friction to find them is 0. So it's really important to design to all of these things. And so as people are going through, I'll unpack this a little bit more when I give you examples. But important to remember that as you're going on this journey, it's not just like rainbows and beautiful scenery and, you know, we keep going to the next stage. There's actually these gremlins. And the gremlins are anxieties and fears that people feel as they're going on this journey. And again, your job as a designer or your job as someone who is creating a website is to anticipate what these fears are and resolve them. Because if you don't resolve them, the journey stops, right? So it's super important. And typically when you are in a business where you have like a human sales team, right? A really good salesperson will do all of this in a very natural way. They'll know what your next objection is and they will have resolved that next objection. And again, when we design websites, we kind of forget to do this. We kind of forget to interrogate the client about what are the objections that people have to buying this product or to buying this service, and can we actually front-footed and take those objections away? You know, doing that builds a lot of trust, and it removes the little gremlin and allows the person to keep going on that journey. All right, now you guys have a choice. It's a little bit of a choose your own adventure at this point. I'm going to show you some free tools that you can use to actually help you figure out how your website is performing and where you're losing people. You know, so, and the reason why it's interesting, important, and will improve your conversion rates to understand where you're losing people is that a fix at the arrival, if you're leaking at the arrival, your fix is send more people to the website. If you're leaking at that point, which is, you know, the sign up or the reality, your fix is fix the onboarding, fix the handoff between the website and the sales team. So each of these stages, if you're broken at that stage, the fix is really, really different. And so it's important to know, because if you can layer these things on and get all of your leaks kind of plugged up at each of these places, you actually will improve your conversion rates by 10 to 40% without much effort and without extra spend on marketing. And it's just simply because you're respecting how people build relationships, you're helping them to do that, you're plugging up the holes where you're losing people along the way. So now we go into I'll give you examples and show you some tools that you can use to get a little bit of feedback about where you're losing people. So the very first one, this is the one I'm very excited about. You can jump on our website, ramp.com, and you can meet Ramp Web Dude. He's got a middle name. And Daniel, actually, who is the creator of Ramp Web Dude, give everyone a wave, is right here. Yes. And he named him. It was going to be Ramp Dude, and we decided on a middle name. So Ramp Dude will actually run an ADOR analysis, which is that process that we just went through. You give it a URL, it comes back with an analysis like that. Like literally, I used to charge people a lot of money for a 2-hour workshop that took a day to prep, and now this is done instantly. It's absolutely the coolest thing I have seen, so I'm excited about it. Jump on, run an analysis, and it will actually give you like pretty solid feedback around change your hero, your call to action here isn't quite right. Here's where you're losing people in each of those 6 stages. The next thing you can do is actually track your leaks over time. So again, you can create an account for free. If you, it's get.ramp.com, this one. You can create a free account and run one URL for free. You don't need to upgrade the account unless you want AI helpers. And so the Ramp diagnostic will actually give you a score for each of those milestones in that customer journey. And you can use that as a monthly report to track how your particular website is going. So, you ship a change. Did that improve things? Well, yes, it did. Our first impression is now 17% better. And that's the kind of metric that you can use to report back to your client. Because again, if your metrics are going up over 3 consecutive months, your conversion rates are following. Like it doesn't take that long to go from improvements in all these scores to improvements in conversion rates. That's something you can do. And then the other thing we have, this is a paid product, I won't spend any time on it, is we've put all of that ADOR process into AI. So now we create customized AI, which is effectively a brand engine, and that brand engine will fix all the things for you. So you run the diagnostic, and then the brand engine says, you need more social media marketing. Bang, here's your calendar. Or your website copy isn't right. Here's a fix. That sort of thing. Okay. I could run, do you want to see examples? Like if I switch out of this mode and I run an analysis for you, it's kind of immediately wow, but the font is kind of small. You don't really get the impact. Option B is I actually show you slides of examples of like what worked, and we can have a discussion about that. What would you like to do? Examples? Okay. Now you've got to ask me questions about these. I've given you some good examples and some bad examples. You're all designers. You're sitting here thinking about your next client project. Ask me the questions that are going to help you to win the next client project and help your client to sell more, whatever it is they're selling, right? So Lovable, right? They launched and immediately, I'm not really great with numbers, they had 10 million users, 100 million users, a lot of zeros on the back of that number. And part of the reason why they got such really big uptake is because they had already built a community, right? So they marketed straight to developers. The community was tight. It was very quick uptake. I don't know if you've seen, but this weekend they're running a Lovable is free. And it's like a create anything you want in Lovable and choose the AI model that you want, which is incredibly clever because obviously they're trying to figure out which of the models are performing the best. So they've got like an army of people who are now creating free projects this weekend. They're going to harness all that data and they'll have the answers to which models perform best in which part of code generation. Absolutely brilliant. Right, this is a much smaller company, and this is what I did in between eFox and one of the things I did and Ramp, and that is we created a gratitude app. And so the gratitude app was called Thanks, and you could send someone a coffee through your phone. Thank you, Ricky, for doing a great job. Here's a coffee for you, right? And we launched at Microsoft. We had no budget. We had no budget at all. We launched at the annual Microsoft conference in front of 35,000 people at the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas, and that was live streamed to 2 million viewers, right? We had a 100% conversion rate on that activation, and they paid us. Now, I'm not going to go into like different, partnership marketing and how to get people to actually arrive at your website, but there are solutions which are better than Google Words. Now, Google Words in 2000 was 3 cents per click. Google Words now, if you're in plastic surgery, it's $150 Like the economics just isn't there. You've got to think a little bit differently about how you get in front of people and, how you get that arrival point happening. Okay, I promised you a website. This is actually live. You can go, it's one of my clients. You can go to this website today and this is what it looks like. And they're like, oh, we don't convert off the website. No, you don't. That's right. Yeah. Right? No, you don't. It's like 1984, right there. Maybe it was early 90s. I don't know. But clearly, and it's quite interesting when you pop them into Ramp Web Dude and you run the analysis. I laughed myself silly. He actually came back with, oh my God, what is this? Like a time capsule from the dark ages of the internet. There's a little bit of my voice built into the product, so it might sometimes be a little bit unhinged. But so no, this doesn't sell. This doesn't sell. Like this is an example. If you are producing websites like this, your conversion rate isn't going to be great. And again, most people will not look at who is behind this website. They will just look at that and go, this is going to steal my credit card. This is a hack website from China, right? Like that's the impression that you make. And I can promise you when your first impression doesn't align, people don't actually stick around and go, I wonder who's behind this. Are they credible? They just go somewhere else. It's really important to get that right. Now, getting it right, put an asterisk on that. 10 minutes, got it. Put an asterisk on that. You don't need to win design awards, right? Like you don't have to be a 10 out of 10. You can just be an 8 out of 10. That's okay. Just show up with an iron shirt. Look the part of what people are expecting. You don't have to win design awards. Okay, this is the number 2 reason. At the beginning, I gave you the spoiler alerts. So talking about yourself, right? If you look at this website, they've changed it since we ran that session, but their website was all about us and we. So that's generally going to be your number 1 flag. If you have website copy which talks about our process, we do this, we do that, take all of that and just rotate it around and go, well, okay, we do this and this is our process. What's the impact for my client? And talk about that. Because everyone is really just thinking about themselves. They don't really care all that much about your business. They care really about how that business is going to make them a hero and get them a promotion, maybe even a puppy. So they changed the copy on the homepage and they had a 23% increase in engagement straight away in the first month. And that's really big when you multiply it out and you go, well, now this website, which wasn't generating any leads for us, is generating leads for us. And it's doing that not because we're paying for it, but because it's just sitting there and is being a better asset for us. Okay, first date, don't be boring. This is the ideal website. It's an insurance company. It's called Lemonade. Have a look at them. Like, I can't design a better structured website than they. They take insurance and they make it really delightful. I don't know how they've done it. This is a genius team and they're magical, fairies. The thing that makes them an ideal website is that this is the format that they followed. And so this format was actually, the research on this was done back when I was at eFox and we were doing the, all that work with, what was it called? The Gutenberg editor? Yeah, the Gutenberg editor and all of that. So if you analyze websites that sell really well, they will all follow this narrative. This is the hero's journey of websites. Now you can break this every now and then, but do it deliberately rather than accidentally. And if you do nothing else but follow this structure, your website will lead to better conversion. Like guaranteed. Okay, number one reason why websites don't convert really well and why people ghost you is that you propose on the first date, right? So give me a fix for this one. I've harped on about this. I'm doing a quiz now. What's wrong with this website? It's sharp, it's fun, it's bright.
So the one thing I struggle with too is the button. It is that CTA, because everyone in the workforce says, you've got to put the call, you've got to do this. And I'm now putting two buttons. I put the call because I feel like I have to, and one that says, how we help. I feel like I need to, and I want to break that, so you just give me permission to do that.
Yeah, well, and I'll actually give you an answer. So this is the money moment, okay? Yeah, so that button, the book a demo, request a demo, anything of that, book a call, will at most get a 5% click rate, right? So the button is sitting there, but no one's clicking it because, face it, no one wants to book a call. Like, it's too intimate. It's actually quite an intimate request. Correct. Yeah, you want to see it. But so if we change that button to view a demo, your 5% click rate turns into about a 60% click rate. And so here's the real magic though. If you have a button that says view a demo, pop up a video, but don't make it a demo, please. Don't give me a step-by-step walkthrough of every feature. Make it a 1 minute, this is how your life is going to be better because you went on this journey with us. So a really sharp and benefits-oriented video, right? And at the end of that video, if you then invite people to book a demo, the transition from video to book a demo will be about 70%. So if you multiply that out, again, like making the video might take a little bit of, capital investment or what have you, but you go from 5%, so hardly anyone, no one's booking that demo with you, to now a 60% click rate and then about a 70% retention rate and follow-on bookings. It makes a world of difference and you're making a really small change. So a lot of these changes, like you literally ship them and they're good the next month. Yeah.
Are you talking generally about home pages?
Oh, landing page, anything.
And pages where the person doesn't know anything about the brand and came through navigation or commercial intent, not right.
Yep.
So, but my question is,
yes.
Sometimes people will come to the website with the who are warm already, and we don't want to miss them by having all this stuff that they have to go through until they can actually get something done.
That's right.
What's the trade?
That's right. So it's a really, really good question. So in general, people who come to your website will not come to your website and purchase your product in the one transaction, right? So they're coming back 3-4 times. If it's a bigger purchase, like a industrial purchase, you might have a team of people who are investigating you over a period of months. And so the visits to your website are multiple and many, and the people have a different level of readiness or trust with your brand when they come and visit. So you're right, you don't want to not have the book a call, because at some point someone is going to want to book a call. It's just not necessarily right there on your website, on the hero part of your website as the only option, right? So if you come back in here, see how there's a primary CTA in the middle of the page and then a primary CTA at the very bottom, all right? The place to book something like book a call with us is probably at the very bottom, not at the very top. Because at the bottom, especially if you sandwich it with really good testimonials, people are ready, they've engaged. You've got them interested, they kind of understand what you're about. So it's not, I'm certainly not saying don't ever put a book a call or request a demo button on your website, but be thoughtful about where you do it. And definitely people come not just once, they're going to be coming 3, 4, 5 times. It's multiple iterations before they're ready to make that decision. So, okay, here's another one, right? Like the sign up. So we go on to that next stage where now we're trying to engineer an exchange of value. If you're a tourism company, something like download a perfect itinerary is a good idea. if you're, who is this, Qualtrics? It's Qualtrics. So if you're Qualtrics, and I really, really, really do want that trends report that you've just done, you can probably ask me 10 questions and I'll answer them, right? If you're a small business who I don't know and it's questionable whether that ebook that I download will actually be of value to me, I'm not going to give you more than an email address, right? So you've kind of got to taper it to the value that someone's going to get and how much are they willing to give you. That kind of sign-up form probably, like it's still not that lengthy, but it probably won't work for everyone. You know, here's an example. This little Build Your Dream Ute is a little ute builder. And you slap on, so Ute Master is a New Zealand company. They make trays for the back of utes. Every guy on the planet wants one of these. It's waterproof. It takes 8 guys to install. It's an $8,000 purchase. They have an 80% conversion rate of their widget, which sits on the website. And you think, oh, it's probably because the guys can visualize like how this all looks. The reason they have an 80% conversion rate is because they're very clever and they understand that that tray is not getting purchased unless the girlfriend approves it. And so they have a button that says, send to your girlfriend. And so you slap the accessories on, you send it to your girlfriend with that button, which is, you know, it's easy to find, and then purchase is made. All right, I'm whipping through, I've got 2. Okay, this is the number 3 reason why your websites are not converting as highly as they possibly could be. And it's that and now I'm kind of focusing, it's most applicable to SaaS businesses, but you know, if you're an operator who answers a phone, we can go there too. So this company had an onboarding process. They're a fintech company and they promise you a free trial, and you start to, you know, you log on, you create the account, free trial, very first step. You can't actually do the first step unless you upgrade, right? So it's like such a complete letdown. Hey, we've moved in together and you're leaving the toilet seat up. Like what? You know, so we fixed that and they literally made 138% more revenue off the back of fixing one thing, right? One little UX change. So these things are significant. Okay, this is exactly the same example, just a slightly different version of it. This is I think it's one of those, is it Dungeons and Dragons? It's one of those games and it's an app to play this game really well. It's actually a very popular game. It's called Ardent. The onboarding process takes 22 minutes and you can't actually start playing at the end of that. And they were like, I wonder why no one's playing. Well, I can tell you what, I'm taking screenshots, so I've sat through 22 minutes of onboarding. No one else is, right? So we fixed that. We generally, here's another mistake that people make. If you're trying to educate your audience during the onboarding process, that's a total fail. No one wants an education when they're onboarding. They just want to start. They want a quick win. So the education has to happen somewhere else. Very complicated pricing things are also complicated. The end.
Wow.
Did I make it?
Yeah, no.
Great.
So I got really worried when you started talking. So I inherited the website for an amateur radio club.
Yes.
Right? So what are we selling? We just want members. There is no other product that we're selling. All we want is members. First thing I looked at when I got there was, and here's what it says when you go there, our club is charged under our rules of association to disseminate knowledge, right? And then have you become a member of the club. There was a click right down the bottom of the web page. It was probably like 5 or 6 page footage. So I moved the join our club click here, right to the top, where people see it as a CTA. And then I got really scared when you started talking.
No, just that's okay.
Okay.
Just change some of that language because it sounds like
absolutely.
the legal department knows
Absolutely.
But I could join
just a minute. My question.
I'm helping you fix this stuff.
So what happens is when you come to one of these things, if you get like 2 really good takeaways from a couple of days of being here, it's great. What I would say is I ran the website straight through.
Did you?
Ramped it. Oh, yeah. And just a minute, and here's what it said. Thank you very much. Blah, blah. Does it feel right? What's working? Logo and club name are front and centre. The tagline is strong and clear. Immediate statement of purpose. I thought, oh, this is good.
High five.
Like the CTA. Yeah, oh, absolutely. And then a whole lot of really other good stuff until it gets down to the very last thing. It's saying, oh yeah, good. And then it gets down to the end moment of truth, and it says, oh, there's no member stories, blah, blah, blah. It says, your website is a little like a vintage radio. Whoa!
Love it.
So
Love it.
I now have everything I need to go back and fix this, and when everybody says, John, you changed the website, and say, yeah, good, fuck off.